All right, welcome to the Sports Guys. Welcome to another weekend recap. This was just an absolutely insane weekend of sports. By the way, before we get started, happy Memorial Day to all of you who are enjoying Memorial Day. And let's remember the reason for the day, all those people that lost their lives on our behalf for our freedom, and all the families that support those people. So happy Memorial Day. How you doing, Robbie?
Yeah, I think it's not so much a happy day as it is a day where we get to reflect and honor those who served, gave the ultimate sacrifice. So thanks to everybody who did that. We'll never know their names, but we'll also never forget them.
That's absolutely true. So just like every Memorial Day, we get so many sporting events you have to choose. There's no way you can watch them all.
Yeah,
So Um, overall thoughts, we had a lot of great racing events. We had a lot of great NBA. We had a lot of great NHL. We had
college
lacrosse
sports,
tournaments finishing up. We had thoughts about the overall weekend.
incredible, incredible. I watched nonstop sports and I was flipping around. Last night was hilarious, Tom, with you and I were editing our last episode on my computer while
Mhm.
watching the NASCAR Coca Cola 600 on your iPad. On my big screen was hockey, and on my phone was the basketball game.
We still didn't have enough devices to watch it all.
Yeah, and I mean, I was getting whiplash. It was so cool. I mean, it was fun though. It was really good.
That was a fun live episode we did right after Carolina took care of business in overtime. It was fun. And then the races were particularly good. I was really
Oh
worried
man.
about both races. Indy 500, of course, they call it the Great American Race. You had 20 different countries represented in that race, which I think is really cool. It's really an international event now.
Yeah.
And then you have the Coca Cola 600, which is later that night. And I'm wondering if you remember the time when several guys tried to do both of them. I know Tony Stewart, when he was 24 years old, he did it. He did the Indianapolis
Yep.
500, and then they popped him in a helicopter, went to the airport. He flew down, got another helicopter, and made it
Hmm.
10 minutes before his car was to take off in the Coca Cola 600. Of course, he was 24 years old. He could do it. But
Yeah. Well, that's the point. Catherine Legg was attempting that yesterday,
mhm.
and he crashed in the 17th um, uh, trip around in Indy, and so they called off her going to the Coca Cola 600. But yeah, that she was going to be the first woman to attempt that.
And of course, you see in the graphic behind you right now, one of the greatest, maybe the greatest finish ever in the Indianapolis 500. Particularly
Yeah,
exciting, especially the last 10 laps were just unbelievable.
it was funny because I got to watch it and I couldn't wait to call you. And I actually did call you, but you didn't answer. uh, that was just so good. But yeah, I was on the edge of my seat. It was just so fascinating to watch all the strategy and have the crash happen, which caused a yellow flag and then a red flag and then a restart where they bunched all the guys up and then let them slowly do they took the
Lap
the
car.
different they took the laps down to the fourth lap,
Hmm.
4 laps left, and then somebody else hit the wall. So then they went back to yellow and took it all the way down to 1 lap and then gave them the green and white flags together, which
Hmm.
means green is go and white means one lap left. And
You
then
know,
it
I,
was just a sprint. It was so amazing.
I was thinking about that, all the different cautions the last 20 laps in the Indy, and then there was a bunch of them in the last third of the race in the NASCAR Coca Cola 600. And I was trying to think of, is there any other sport like that where, you can have essentially a guy who's running away with it get completely screwed over by a situation
Yeah.
where someone crashes behind him and forces him to come back to the pack. I mean, it's really hard to think of one. Now, I will say in basketball, you can call a timeout when someone's on a run, or there's other things you can do. But I don't think
Yeah.
there's any sport where strategy is impacted so heavily by something you can't control.
Outside events. Yeah, probably right. I will say that it was an interesting um finish because the guy that was winning for the longest time actually ended up winning. So it was like
Barely, and he
the
could have
Indy
blown them away.
I know the IndyCar gods were sort of looking out for him, but Yeah, I mean, Felix Rosenqvist had quite a race, and he felt sick when the red flag came out. When he had a nice little lead, and it seemed like he was gonna be able to hold on. And then they bunched all the cars up. It was so exciting though because of it. It was really good for racing, for IndyCar to have a finish like that. And of
Hmm.
course, um, Malukas, who barely lost. If you look in my picture behind me, it was the closest finish in IndyCar history,
And he was bawling
and
his eyes out.
he was bawling his eyes out. He was winning the whole last couple laps, but most of them were under caution, so they all had to drive really slowly
I think
until the
the reality
final lap.
is that that Swedish car and that Honda really was the best car all day. So I think in the end,
Yeah,
the best driver won it.
yeah,
It
yeah.
seems like.
He was fantastic.
And then in the Coca Cola 600, you had the same thing happen. You had a couple of cautions occur in the last 30 laps that really changed the strategy. You had some
Well,
guys who were leading and ended up having to pit when they didn't really want to pit and had to get two tires when they didn't really want to get two tires. And you had Suarez come up out of nowhere and essentially upset the whole field when you had the top six guys who ended up finishing behind him all leading almost all day long. You had Gibbs, you had Reddick for the Michael Jordan team. You had a couple of other guys who were right there the entire day, and then end up losing because of a couple of late cautions that gave Suarez a chance.
it wasn't just cautions. They called the race off with
Yeah,
27 laps left. They
yeah.
just said done. So the weather was a huge factor at Coca-Cola 600, and it wasn't nearly as much a factor at in Indy. So
The
um,
rain was so bad that, and they called it off that the Suarez celebration, they had to do the whole thing under about 50 different umbrellas. They had to give him the
yeah,
trophy under all these umbrellas. It was kind of a
yeah,
really sad that he had to deal with that situation, but
he was pretty happy.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean he was torn though because he was very close with Kyle Busch,
Yeah.
and he raced for Busch Racing at
Hmm.
one point, and he was friends with him. In fact, he said that Kyle Busch got a hold of him when he was Daniel Suarez was thinking about, should I even do this? I'm losing. I'm not doing
Hmm.
well. And Busch told him to keep going and keep working at it and see
Hmm.
what happens, So, and he found him very inspirational. So
Yeah.
Suarez said he was racing for Kyle Busch yesterday, and so that was kind of cool that they pulled that off.
So speaking of Kyle Busch, we had an entire weekend with every single sporting event had Kyle Busch up on their monitor, up on their big screen. In the case of both of these races, up on a big pole right next to the track. You had lots of commemorations and people talking about Kyle Busch and talking about the tragedy, and lots of people crying who are race fans. And any thoughts about the impact of this? I mean, you have to think back to some other huge losses in sports to really kind of compare it.
Yeah, I think it was a strange thing because anytime you have illnesses, you usually have some length of time to adjust mentally to we might lose them. And then if it's like an accident that's sudden, that's obviously a shock to the system. But when racers get killed in racing, there's something about it that doesn't seem that wrong because that's sort of like they go out
Mm-hmm.
doing what they want. And I know that's not true. They have families but there was something weird about this where it was so sudden and he was only 41 or whatever. So
Really wanted to leave behind a wife and a son, and leave,
yeah,
and he was right in the
he's
middle of a pretty good run on all the
he was
different circuits he
about
was
he was
driving on.
about to do the Coca-Cola 600. Like he
Mhm.
he was ready to go, and yeah, so it was a very sudden thing. He was a very competitive person, loved the battle.
They were
Um,
talking about he's not quite in his prime; he's a little bit past his prime, but he was still really competitive. Even in the truck
yeah,
series, he was doing really well in the truck series. And so, yeah, it's a huge shock. I was trying to compare it, Robbie, to a couple of different people. I was trying to compare it to Kobe Bryant, who died in a helicopter accident not too far from his
yeah,
house, taking his daughter to a basketball practice. That was a complete shock to the basketball world.
that was.
I was there, Dale Earnhardt, who was another villain in NASCAR, just like Kyle Busch was. Both of them were villains. I was thinking of other guys who died on the track who were doing what they loved, obviously. I
Mhm.
was thinking of Yeah, I'm thinking of Reggie White. I'm thinking of his situation was kind of shocking, although he had already retired. Um, Anybody else comparable you can think of that you can compare the
I
Kyle Busch
mean,
situation to?
none that are very good. I mean, you could say Junior Seau, you could, no, I don't think that there's any that really are comparable to this in that it was a sudden illness that came on and pneumonia turned into sepsis and that who knows? Like
It's
nobody
just one of
knows
those freak
what
things,
happened.
Matter of fact, he
Uh,
was in the simulator at the time. He was actually getting ready for the race. He was in the simulator.
Yeah,
So it's not like he had been sick for a long time or anything. He was actually trying to get ready for the race and then falls out on the floor and they call 911 and then he's
yeah.
essentially passed away within a couple hours. So it was
But he
really
was
sad.
a two-time NASCAR champion, Cup champion, and his nickname was Rowdy because he
Mhm.
loved the Days of Thunder so much. He
Mhm.
loved Rowdy Gaines. He had a lot of injuries. He had a lot of different Rowdy Burns. I mean, he had a lot of injuries. He had a lot of successes, a lot of skirmishes. He was always sort of embroiled in some things. So he was a very colorful character. He had 234 wins across the three different series, the most of all time. So he was clearly one of the best ever.
I got to
Top
think
hands,
Dale Earnhardt's the biggest comp because they both were villains, and yet after they
probably.
passed, it was such a huge impact to the sport. And when you talk to fans, like they would go to all the tracks this weekend and talk to fans, and they all were saying that, well, yeah, I hated him competitively, but I thought he was a good guy, and they're saying good things
Yeah.
about him now.
I think
And
most people saw him really mature over the last 10 years and became a family man and just sort of really became he could bottle the edge on that competitiveness because he was insanely competitive. So, it was sad for racing and the racing world and everybody associated with all that. And I think that he definitely made a huge impact. You could feel it at both races this weekend. They did a lot of tributes.
the same thing happened with Earnhardt. I mean, they interviewed people after that death, and they said, look, I hated him competitively, but I thought he was a good guy, and he was great for the sport. And so, anyway, that was that was definitely sad.
Yep.
Some other things to talk about, and we'll get into all these things in detail in a minute. But obviously, in the NBA series, the Spurs and the Thunder tied up 2-2. You had this overreaction Monday happening after every single game. It's a really weird series. It was the one we all wanted to see. The Spurs take the 1-0 lead, then the Thunder win games 2 and 3, and then the Thunder looked really bad last night. I mean, I couldn't quite understand what was happening. They were down 38 points at one point. Um,
Just a flat game.
it's a really, really bad, and Spurs played well. So, um, have you gotten your arms around where you think that series is going? I can't quite figure it out.
It's kind of what it's supposed to be, which is a really good matchup, back and forth. Whoever wins, there's some wild overreaction about how their star is the greatest player of all time. It's like, what? It doesn't make sense to me how it's being covered, but that's part of the fun of it, is how ridiculous the over the top presentations are when they talk about the flopping and the,
Yeah.
outrageous calls that OKC's getting and not getting and all this. And then, then the Spurs win and Wemby's the greatest player of all time. There's never been a player like him. And it's like, what are we doing?
Uncoverable.
What are we doing?
Yeah, it's
Let's
I'll
rein
tell
it
you.
in just a little bit.
I think I told you this. I think if the Spurs have their big four and don't have injuries, I think they're 2% better and could win the series. But I think that the fact that they've had missing pieces throughout the series makes it where it's really competitive. And I really don't know who's going to win in game seven. I do think it's going to go seven. Last night, Dylan Harper tried to play, played for 20 minutes, didn't get much production, but he did try to play. You have Darren Fox, who's not fully healthy.
Yeah.
So the Spurs, they're trying their best to be as healthy as they can be, but they're not. And then, of course, SGA's missing one of his running mates, which is Williams, who's a big
Yeah.
part of their core. So I don't know. I'm really excited to see what happens in the series. I don't really know what's going to happen. All right, let's do a quick shout out to our sponsor for tonight, our long term sponsor that we've had since almost the beginning of the program. and that's Jersey Mike's. We love Jersey Mike's. I love the 13. Rob loves the 17. Rob, what do you and your family love about Jersey Mike's?
We love going in there, and the boys absolutely enjoy watching them use the they shave the meats right there in front of you and the cheeses, and they feel like it's a very fresh sandwich. So then when they go to eat it, they're real excited about it. It's a great place, fantastic food, really freshly made, friendly service. They're always staffed well. I think people forget that sometimes lately. Is a lot of establishments are pretty understaffed, and they always have plenty of people and they're friendly, making our stuff right there. And we always enjoy it. It's consistent. So it's a treat. Usually after games, usually baseball or basketball, we'll do Jersey Mike's and potentially ice cream after that. But it's my family absolutely loves it, and it's easy. Makes it easy for us. Super convenient.
You make a good point about staffing. I mean, a lot of the other sub shops you go into, there's one cashier, one person making sandwiches, and there's a huge line stacked up. Whereas Jersey
Yeah,
Mike's, you see like
and
five or
they're
six
getting
people in there.
and they're getting smashed with online orders, so it's even worse than what you're looking at.
Hmm.
And meanwhile, of course, Jersey Mike's has all the ordering coming in, but they have good staffing and fresh food, super affordable. So it's a really good value. It's a great place to get a meal. We get dinner there. It's a very frequent lunch for us. It's a great choice.
We love Jersey Mike's. Go to jerseymikes.com or get one of the delivery services to deliver you one, or go to one of your local stores. They're all over the place. You'll find one right near your place. And as
Yeah,
we always say, it's a sub above.
it is a sub above.
See you
Go
next
check
time.
them out. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be this back and forth thing until somebody strings a couple together. And I personally think OKC is the better team, but I can clearly see how a special player like Wemby can take so much attention that his role players can have big games and they can win. So, um, Castle and guys like that are just very good players that when you have Wemby doing what he's doing,
Mhm.
when he plays well and he's not getting sort of manhandled by somebody who's maybe smaller but stronger, um, he goes off when he's on. Like he's really something else. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I think that it should go back and forth, and we'll keep hearing this greatest player of all time and flop artists that are shouldn't be MVP and all this. It's just crazy talk to me. I think both players are the best two players in basketball right now. Brunson's pretty close as well. And then there's a tiny handful of others that belong in there. Jokic. But
Do you know that two of the four games in this series so far have been the highest ever at this round in
yeah,
terms of rating? So the fact that they happen over Memorial Day weekend, I think that's just huge for the NBA.
I'll tell you what, when you look at games one and two and or two and three, bench scoring for OKC was unbelievable and gave them their wins. And so they had an absolutely incredible support.
Hmm.
And so they can just rotate these 8, 10 guys in without hesitation.
Hmm.
And they're not trying to get anyone rest. They're getting fresh guys in there to allow them to have the opportunity to go off. Not so much like, can we get him back in? Can we get him back in? Our starting five must be in, or we're dead meat. So
It's true.
that's their strength is that just rotating mess of players that all have different skill sets. They can all score. They're getting a tremendous amount of scoring off the bench. It's absolutely incredible.
So then in the Knicks series, I really expected that one to be at least somewhat competitive. I had the Knicks 4-2 in that one, Knicks in six. I thought the Cavaliers, at least in Cleveland, would give them a match. And last night we saw Cleveland not really be very competitive at all. And there's a lot of accusations that they've mailed it in, they're giving up because of the game one and game two, just decimations. Matter of fact, Stephen A. Smith said on ESPN, he said that check the flight logs and see if the Cavaliers have already booked their tickets to the Bahamas because they really feel like they've mailed it in. So what are your thoughts about that series? Why is it such a destruction? Why have the Knicks won 10 straight?
Well, I think the stats kind of sing some of the song, but Brunson has been unbelievable and consistently good. I think that he's been getting a nice amount of help, and Anunoby is is playing. He's
He's
been
really
hurt, but
stepped up. Yeah.
he's stepped up. And then Bridges in the last game had a great game.
Hmm.
But I think the story really comes down to three-point shooting has been very lopsided consistently now for the whole series. Field goal percentage is pretty lopsided overall. Um, if you look at game one, it's 40% to 48%. Uh, it's 39 to 52%, 52%. And that's pretty darn good.
I've
And
always admired.
and then
I've always.
50 to 56. So
Mhm.
they're dominating the field goal percentage. They're dominating fast break points. 17 to 4 last
Mhm.
game. 17 points to 4 points on the fast break. And Knicks hit 11 3-pointers. And
Mhm.
those are daggers.
I've always admired Donovan Mitchell. I still do, but he really this series has taken whole quarters off. You're not getting the production from him you're used to. He's in some cases when they get behind 25 points, he flails and he kind of takes wild shots from corner. Sometimes he'll make them, sometimes he won't. Um, I really question whether his mind's fully in this series. I can't quite figure it out with him. And then with Harden, he's become a defensive liability. I mean, there's just no
Yeah,
question. They go at him every possession,
yeah.
and they either get him to foul them or he backs off because he doesn't want to foul, and they get an easy bucket right in front of
Yeah,
them.
he's like too big and slow to handle what he's being asked to cover.
Mhm.
Because he's a pretty big guard, you know.
I mean, without Allen and Mobley, who've actually both been playing pretty well in this series, without
Yeah,
them, these would be 40-point wins for the Knicks.
yeah,
I don't know
that's right.
why we're not getting the production from Mitchell and Harden that we're expecting, but
Harden is getting points, but a lot of them are kind of trash points, and he's contributing after kind of the game's over.
mm,
And he's not playing defense. He's a liability on defense.
he is.
Um, it just feels like the Cavs are good, but the Knicks are great.
Yeah.
That's the
I
Cavs are one
mean,
of the better teams, and the Knicks are the best team in the East.
in our preview show, we said we thought the three best teams were the Thunder, the Spurs, and the Celtics. And at that time, we
Yeah,
didn't realize that the Celtics really were actually a pretty incomplete team. And we
yeah.
didn't see this great rush from the Knicks coming. And actually, Knicks fans will admit to you, they didn't see this great rush coming.
No, I
Um,
didn't. I didn't see it coming.
I think we're going to end up with the two best teams. We're going to have a team
Yeah,
out of the West that probably has a decided advantage, but we're going to have a Knicks team that can be competitive.
yeah. I think that the Knicks will be able to compete with either of them. I think that OKC's depth can get matched a little bit with the Knicks. They're
Hmm.
pretty decent, but I don't know. I don't know. I think I think the West is going to win. I think that they're
Hmm.
clearly the better team, but
I do
yeah, I
too.
think the Knicks are definitely handling handling it well. They have a lot of role players like Hart
Hmm.
just playing well, and they're leave and the Cavs are leaving him open for threes and stuff,
Hmm.
and he's just slashing them up. So
Do you think the Knicks can get a couple games in the finals against a Western team? Either of those two teams, can they get one or two games?
sure, yep,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
so too.
because when they get hot, they're the best team in basketball. But counting on getting hot is a problem.
Yeah. On the hockey side of the ledger, we watched the Carolina Hurricanes. If you guys didn't catch our instant reaction episode from yesterday, catch it. Um, check that episode out. We really kind of expressed our excitement in that game. We talked about what we thought went right and what we think the Hurricanes are going to need to do to win that series. And then in the Avalanche series, we watched in horror last night as the Avalanche took a 3-0 lead in the first period and
Unbelievable.
found a way to I mean, squander that lead and then lose in the third period. Any thoughts about the Avalanche? I mean, we were just saying yesterday that they still have a chance, but
I thought it was gonna be a blowout. I thought the Avalanche were gonna come in a little angry and just beat them down, and then that was it. Like I didn't know what would happen after that. But I thought yesterday's game was gonna be, like 5-1 kind of beating. And I was stunned in the second period when the Golden Knights just weren't having it, and they came storming back, tied it up, and then they got the go-ahead goal, and then you just felt like it broke their
you know what
back.
I realized about the Golden Knights? They have a great team. They don't have a lot of great individual
Yeah,
pieces, but
yeah,
they are so solid, man. They're so connected. And their goalie's playing really well, and there's something
yeah.
about them. I don't know what it is. They're on a roll right now.
Well,
It's not like the Knicks.
Tortorella's doing a really good job. He's 18-4-1 since he took over in
Hmm.
March. And um, you know, Vegas is doing okay in every area. They're 1 for 3 on the power play when Colorado was 0 for 4 last night. That's an advantage. That's a one goal advantage. In hits, 17-34.
Hmm.
Vegas is hitting twice as much as
Which,
Colorado.
by the way, is what Carolina did to their opponent as
Right,
well. Hit twice
right.
as much.
And
Hmm.
they're winning faceoffs. So it
Hmm.
just seems like they're doing all the little things with effort, and they're resulting in those scrappy, uh, close games that they end up breaking the will of Colorado, who's used to kind of dominating teams up to this point and just finishing them off and maybe winning 4-2 every night. And
You know what's
the,
funny about that? You think about our boy Tony Bennett, who used to be with Virginia, is now retired, but he used to talk about it. It's what you take out of adversity. He really believed adversity was character building.
yeah.
And I'm wondering maybe the Avalanche haven't had enough adversity. They needed to be slapped around a little bit earlier to kind of.
Maybe, but also they didn't have enough opposition to discover that Wedgwood's not quite a Stanley Cup winning goalie level,
Mhm.
uh,
I think so.
talent wise, and Carter Hart is. You know,
Hmm.
Carter Hart's he's doing 32 saves every night.
Hmm.
He's absolutely on fire. And he had 36 saves, 29, and last night 32. Those
Yeah.
those are game saving stats. And he
And
had
I
a
feel like
terrible
that,
first period, but he definitely played tight after that and didn't give up anything else.
they say the Carolina Hurricanes might have the best home ice advantage in NHL, but Vegas has got to be up there. They got to be in the top
Yeah.
three or four
Mhm.
because that crowd last night was so geeked up. I
They
I
were.
think it helps. I think it helps them come back.
Yep.
So
And you saw Sebastian Maniscalco doing the siren.
that
That
was
was pretty
great.
fun.
So last two stories we'll cover tonight, and then we're going to get into the headlines right now, and that is the two winning teams in the lacrosse brackets. We had a lot of fun covering lacrosse this year. The Northwestern ladies won and beat the UNC Tar Heels. What was interesting is UNC came into the game 19-1. The only loss this year was to Northwestern by one goal earlier in the year, and so interestingly enough, Northwestern beat them again. This time it really counted. And thoughts about that final and Northwestern ladies? It really was a pretty impressive win.
Got to watch that one. It was very impressive. It was very, very good game. Obviously, North Carolina was upset, feeling a little disappointed, but and Northwestern they played a really good like second half of that game.
Mhm. Agreed. I thought it was a great representation for women's lacrosse and for men's
Yeah,
lacrosse. I thought the game
very
today
competitive.
was really interesting. Thoughts about the men's final? It just finished up a little while ago. Princeton
It was
takes down
awesome.
Notre Dame. I thought Notre Dame was going to win the whole thing, and I thought Princeton would be their opponent. You
I
actually thought
I
you,
thought
you said you thought Princeton was going to win it. So
yeah, yeah, because they had the best combination of offense and defense.
mhm,
Notre Dame's offense this year was a little weaker than normal. They had a great defense and great goalie.
mhm,
Princeton had great offense, defense, and goalie. They're the best goalie in the country, an incredible defense in front of him, and then
mhm.
they could go score on you at will. So they had the best team in the country, and it's not a surprise to me that they beat Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame had a very good season as well. very special season. They won the last two cups, and got real close here today. But it felt like Princeton had it all day long.
Mm-hmm.
They got to a nice lead. Notre Dame would come back a little bit. Princeton would
I
score
don't think
again,
I,
open the lead up.
I don't think I've ever seen an 11 goal run to end the half. That was unbelievable. I mean, it was
Yeah,
a really competitive game early, but
it was.
Princeton goes on an 11 goal run
In fact, I
to the
think it's at
championship
one point
game.
it was 3-0 Notre Dame in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but
that
what a
the
great
way they
game.
finished that half was just astounding to me. You don't usually see that against an ACC squad. So thoughts about
Yeah.
two straight Ivy League schools winning the title last year, Cornell, this year, Princeton. There was a commentator after the game. I wanted to get your take on this. He said he thinks that in non-football, non-basketball sports, so we sometimes call them the Olympic sports, he thinks it's an advantage for a school like Princeton or Cornell or others because they've got kids that are not looking for NIL. They're not looking to transfer. They come to Princeton. They
Yeah.
stay 5 years. They get developed by that staff for 5 years because they get redshirted. And then he thinks it's a huge advantage. It's the Tony Bennett model in basketball.
Maybe.
What do you think? Is there something to that? Are the Ivy League schools that get to develop these guys? They don't have a new
No,
squad coming in every year.
I don't think that's it, but I don't think that's hitting the mark. I don't think he's wrong, but I don't think that's the factor that really matters. The factor that really matters is um, it's hard to make money in lacrosse. So the highest level you go is college most of the time. There are plenty of pro players that go out, but making that lacrosse league is I mean, it's just
Mhm.
really hard. Like it's almost impossible.
I got to
So
be honest.
so you think of college as the highest level you can get to. And so you want to get the best possible degree you can. And so you go to the Ivy League school to get an Ivy League diploma so you can get out and make really good money right away and build a nice career because you're not going to be in lacrosse the rest of your life. I think that it's not hard to recruit lacrosse players to the Ivy League schools. I think it's pretty hard to recruit football players because I think football players tend to want to try and test the waters of pro football. And you know, you can go to Canada, but
I got to be honest with you, man. I really think there's something to that. I think that when you're a senior at Princeton, you've been there 5 years, and you have six guys that you've been brothers in arms with all the way through, and you have this chemistry that you can do behind the back passes, and you know exactly where the guy's going to be. I just think there's something to it. I really do. And
yeah, but I don't
I'm
think
old school in that way.
that has nothing to do with NIL.
It doesn't have
Like
anything to do with NIL.
there's not a huge amount of money being thrown around to pull people away from their schools.
That's his point. You're making his point for him. His point is that when you have a lacrosse program like Princeton, they don't have to worry about their guys leaving for NIL. They stay the whole
Right.
time. They can develop them the entire time. That's his whole point.
Right. I mean, of
Whereas
course.
if you're at a school, that it has a big NIL budget versus another school with a big NIL budget, they're all stealing each other's players.
Yeah, but
And
lacrosse isn't a huge NIL
yeah,
sport,
yeah.
so I
I
think
don't know.
that they're not all stealing each other's players. There's definitely transfers. I mean, Virginia gets transfers. And I'm sure some of them get some NIL, but it's not like you'll transfer to four different schools to get a
Mhm.
bigger and bigger payday. That's not happening much in lacrosse.
I mean, Notre Dame is really into the transfer. They had a bunch of guys on their front line that were transfers this year. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just thought provoking. We'd love to hear from you guys. Drop us a comment if you think the NIL quotient in some of the non-football, non-basketball revenue sports is
I
an
think the
enough factor.
I think the magnet of an Ivy League education works for some sports
Mm-hmm.
and not others.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And I think it works really well for lacrosse.
Well, let's go run through the headlines. You ready?
Yep.
Here we go. Headline: the Kyle Busch, two-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, dies at age 41. We talked a little bit about this. The reason that he died was really shocking. Busch's death was announced by the Busch family, NASCAR, and Richard Childress Racing, and made it a sudden, staggering blow to the motorsports community. And essentially, he had apparently had a little bit of health issues leading up to this as well. They thought maybe he was just having maybe allergies due to spring allergies, that kind of thing. Do you think there's anything that could have prevented this?
Nope.
You don't.
No.
Just one of those freak things.
Yep.
What do you think his legacy is going to be? I mean, clearly he wanted to do a lot more in motorsports racing.
It was an incredible legacy of winning. He's one of the best to ever do it, and it's a tragic loss. He definitely made some enemies along the way, but everybody who was in that camp respected him. He raced hard. He would trade paint with people. He would usually bump you, but not wreck you if he was trying to get by you. And
You
you
look
know,
at his
he's
stats here. He won the Cup Series in 2015, 2019. He won 63 total races, which is pretty darn impressive. Ranks
mm,
ninth on the all-time win number. I have to think he's going to make the Hall of Fame for sure.
yep, he is.
Uh, yeah, I think this is just one of those heartbreaking things. I think they'll continue to memorialize him going forward.
It's just
And
sad.
Richard Childress Racing is just going to have to figure out a way to try to replace him. I don't know how you do that. I will tell you, Robbie, the dedication that Joe Gibbs did to him was really touching and really kind of got my heart when I read it because, of course, he rode for the Busch series and the NASCAR series for Joe Gibbs for many, many years. So
Hmm.
pretty interesting. That was incredibly tragic. So moving over to this next story, this is Daniel Suarez's shock win in the rain-shortened Coca Cola 600. This was the picture I was telling you about, Robbie, where he and his whole crew were celebrating and had to do it under umbrellas. Of course, I'm sure they didn't really mind too much when you win the Coca Cola 600, but
Oh yeah, they didn't feel it.
they thought about apparently about 30 minutes before the race, they thought about postponing it to Monday. And they've done that in previous years before. It has to be a major problem, like Thunder is going to be in the area to do it because you've got 150,000 fans who would be impacted. Do you think this was the right call to try to fit it in? What are your thoughts?
I guess so. They were pretty close to the end, and there's no perfect way to do it when the weather's gonna be a problem like that. You could. I mean,
Well, and apparently they
you
didn't they
you
didn't
you
postpone
kind
it
of owe it
because
to the fans who are there, who need to get back home. You kind of owe it to them to race, unless it's absurd.
yeah,
Like.
actually our guy Cam Wyrick, who's been on the program a couple times, was there all week in his RV. And of course, a
Hmm.
lot of guys like to do that and go hang out at the track all week and get ready for the race.
And
I
they're
agree with
planning on traveling home on Monday and
you. Yeah,
being back to work on Tuesday. And
right.
if you have the race on Monday, that complicates a lot of people's lives. So it's
And
it's
also, they
it's a
were
tough
looking at a
call.
Monday where it looked like it was going to rain all day, so there's really no
Right,
point.
right.
Well, what's the point of delaying
Yep.
it? So,
They were just in a bad spot.
so looking at the final list here in terms of the racers, you had Suarez, you had Bell, you had Jay Gibbs, you had a bunch of these different guys. Any thoughts
Hamlin.
overall? Yeah, Hamlin. Any overall thoughts about this race and some of the guys who finished at
Well,
the
they
top?
they break it up into four stages. First stage was Kyle Larson. He won. Second stage was Denny Hamlin. Third stage was Christopher Bell. So
Mhm.
all those guys had really good races and really good performances. And the fact that Suarez was able to hold off until 27 laps out and they called it was pretty
Yeah,
good. He
there
did a
was.
good job.
Bell came in right behind him, Danley Hamlin, then Reddick,
Yep.
who's been on absolute tear this year
Yep.
with the Michael Jordan team. And then I was really happy to see Ty Gibbs get in there for Joe Gibbs Racing
Hmm.
for his dad. That was pretty cool. It's interesting, Robbie. You have in this circuit, Toyota's kind of dominating, and they're taking most of the
Yeah.
spots.
They're
And then,
doing well.
on the Indy circuit, Honda was in the top three spots on the Indy circuit. So I thought that was
It's
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah. So I thought that was a great race. Too bad it got rain shortened, but congratulations to Suarez there.
Yeah, I felt like it
Heading
was
over,
just getting good too. Like I wanted to see the ending to it.
yeah, I kind of did too. I kind of did too. So coming over to the Indy 500, you mentioned that incredible race, the graphic that's there behind you, the closest photo finish of all time in the 110th edition of this race.
Point two
What is your
seconds.
thought about? What's your thought about how international this race has become? It's really amazing to me. It used to
It's not
just be the Great
surprising.
American Race. You don't think
They
so?
uh, they like no, they like it all over the world. They really like IndyCar all over the world. So it's not surprising that everyone starts to have their drivers and it gets
Yeah.
No, it's
I also noticed they like to do this zigzagging action in Formula One, which is a different type of car, different type of racing. They do this zigzagging action, especially when they get towards the end. They're trying to hold guys off
well, it's not just that. They're trying to warm their tires
on
evenly.
their tires. Yeah. So here's the winner right here, Felix Rosenqvist from Sweden.
Hmm.
Apparently a really great guy. There's a lot of people that are big fans of his. Really fun to see him get this one done. He's had some success before as well. Overall take on the shape of IndyCar racing.
I think it was a fantastic race. I mean, you can't end it any better than that. Point 0.2 of a second, closest race in IndyCar history. The winner was a an outstanding um, representative of the sport who had his daughter Stella 2 weeks ago. Feels very blessed to be even in the race. He was winning a lot of the late parts of that race, and then there's the wreck. So he starts questioning himself, like, isn't this my luck? And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
um, he's there. He immediately at the restart, he gets passed by several guys,
yeah,
and so he's cursing himself, angry, and then somebody else hits the wall, so they clump him up again, and then they're gently driving the last couple laps, and then they get down to the final lap and they go green. So it was a full sprint for one lap, and it was just a wild way to finish it, man.
mhm,
And for him to pass right at the end and go side by side with Malukas and pass him by zero point 0.2 seconds. It was amazing.
mhm.
It was great.
That is amazing. So, what is your thought about IndyCar, Formula One versus NASCAR? I know in the United States, NASCAR is definitely more popular.
They're
Um,
very different in
internationally,
so many
Formula
ways.
One is way more popular. There's a
Yeah.
lot of street races in Europe.
Yep. Formula One's bigger around the world, and NASCAR is huge in the U.S., especially regionally. I think
Who do
there's
you think is more
specific
fun to
areas.
watch? I mean, I guess we're just so used to NASCAR. Who do you think is more fun
I
to
like
watch?
them
Because
both. They're different. So, I mean, I can't really compare them. I'd contrast them, but I wouldn't really compare them.
yeah, yeah, I felt bad for this kid Malukas, but he's very young, um,
Yeah.
and I gotta think he's going to be back. I mean, obviously a really good racer. Felt like he had it, just couldn't hold him off. I like
Yeah, it was
the slingshot
crazy.
move that Rosenquist used there to pass him. I love that slingshot move.
Yeah.
You kind of
Yeah.
drafting the guy, and then you kind of right at the last minute go outside.
You just go around the outside, and if you can get enough out of your car right at that moment, you can do it.
Exactly. So the next story here, the Golden Knights erased the 3-goal deficit on the verge of sweeping the Avalanche in the Western Final. If you told me this headline a week ago, I wouldn't have believed
Crazy.
you. Matter of fact, if there was any sweep going to be happening, it would be the Avalanche sweeping. Um, the Avalanche
I,
apparently are getting a couple of guys back from injury that didn't play in Game 3, so that's kind of helpful. But total desperation mode. They're going to be playing in Knights Castle in Game 4. Is there anything they can do to try to turn this series around?
I mean, they had that one won, so I don't know what else you do. I mean, not, I guess not really, you know?
I kind of feel like they are going to win Game 4. I don't know why.
Yeah, I
I,
mean, they should have won. I think they're the better team, but
yeah,
they haven't been in the series, so I can't explain that.
yeah. I feel like they might get this next one, and then it'll be it. I think they're going to go down, and I think it comes down to this name right here you're talking about. I think Wedgwood versus Stone,
Hmm.
and you're
In
seeing
my opinion, that's not close.
it's not close.
It's
It's
not
not.
that close.
You can just see it when you just watch the
Yeah,
games.
yeah,
So yeah, there were a couple of those goals in that comeback that were pretty soft. They just shouldn't
yeah.
happen at this level of hockey.
Nothing terrible, but just he's not coming up with huge saves that save the series, you know?
Yeah, yeah. There are a couple goalies, Carter Hart and a couple of other guys in these playoffs that are making a real name for themselves.
Yeah,
Um, so it's pretty interesting, including the Montreal goalie, by the way, who the Canes are playing. He's a very good goalie as well.
yeah.
Young guy.
Dobish.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
So the next one, talk about, we did our instant reaction on this one. This was the Ehlers OT winner to help the Hurricanes tie the series. Of course, Ehlers, really great player. It was interesting. We were talking about, some of the foreign-born players, Swedish, Finnish, Danish. What's your take on Ehlers and how important do you think he is in the, additions that we had in the offseason in terms of the Hurricanes?
He's great. I mean, he's an important part of their second line. He's part of the reason why they're so deep and why you can let somebody like Nate just go. Um, he's a very talented player. Sometimes he disappears a little bit, and then other times he comes up huge. So I like that he's on the Canes. I think that he's a good player that you have to account for. And he may not be on their first line, but he's a very good player. And
Mm-hmm.
he's come up huge sometimes. So
Mm-hmm. I mentioned in our instant reaction yesterday about how, we aren't seeing a lot from Aho. We aren't seeing a lot from Stankoven in this series. We're not seeing a lot from some of the guys, but you said that we're so deep in so many different lines that it really doesn't
yeah.
matter. I think that
Yeah, as
really.
soon as you focus on Ehlers, Stankoven's gonna go crazy. As soon as you
Mm-hmm.
focus on Stankoven, you'll unleash Svechnikov and Aho. So there is a depth strength that I haven't seen the Hurricanes have in a long time.
And there's no question that the first team defenders are going to be going against Svechnikov and Aho, right? So that's one reason they're kind of quiet in this series
Yeah,
because they're getting the best defenders. So.
yeah. And they're trying to neutralize our best guys and that allows our second guys to go up against their second guys and we'll take that lineup. We'll take that all day long.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. How do you think the Canes will do in Montreal?
I think we'll get one of them and then come back 2-2
Mm-hmm.
and
I
then
agree.
probably take care of business at home and then we
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. So next one here to talk about, Knicks take commanding 3-0 lead over the Cavaliers in the Eastern Finals. Jalen Brunson had a team-high 30 points in Game 3.
Hmm.
He's really become, in my opinion, Robbie, a top 3 guard in the NBA. He's really consistent. He's really good, and he does all the right things. He doesn't make mistakes. He's a good
Yeah.
assist man as well.
I
What do
like
you?
how he's humble, which means the guys rally around him naturally. He says that he's not a star,
They
and
asked. They asked.
that's cool.
They asked Brunson about a week ago when the series started. They asked him, "Why didn't you take the mega max with the Knicks in the offseason?" And he said, "Because I want to build a team." And he said, "Rings are more important to me." So
Yeah,
that's that humility you talked about. I really like that. I like that he's willing to take a
yeah,
team-friendly.
and in New York, you're gonna have deals with local car dealerships, and you're gonna be making more money
He's one of the most
than
sponsored guys.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's super popular because he took a little bit less and he let them build a good team around him, and he's smart. That's the way to do it.
And I realize when I look at their bench, they've got some depth too. Nobody
A
really
little
talks
bit,
about
yeah.
the
That's
depth.
what I'm saying. They could hang with OKC,
Yeah.
whereas very few other teams can.
Yeah. So they should probably go ahead and finish this series off tonight, I would think.
I would think
Yeah.
they might drop one.
We'll see. I really kind of hope Cleveland can come out with a little bit of fire and show something,
Mhm.
but it's not
Yeah,
looking very good.
yeah. Give the home crowd a good
That's
game.
right. So the next one is Victor Wembanyama takes over Game 4 as Spurs run away from the Thunder to tie series. Some of the big headlines coming out of this one is, what happened to SGA in this game? Why did he look so bad? Why did the Thunder look so ineffective? Couldn't hit a shot from anywhere. And is it just one of those things? I mean, it's just basketball. It's just you're
It's one of those
inconsistent.
things.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Back and forth.
Yeah.
The good teams are gonna make adjustments, come back strong, and look better the next game usually.
I never
It-
thought I would see a score line like this for the OKC Thunder in any game, even a regular season game. 19 and 19 in the first half.
yeah.
That's unbelievable. It's just futility, really. So So, your take on who you think is going to win the series? I know I said Spurs in seven. You said Thunder in
I think
seven.
OKC probably in seven.
You think so?
Hmm.
Okay, I'm going to stay with Spurs in seven. I'm feeling good about them.
Yeah, definitely good matchup.
So we got the Northwestern beats UNC to win their ninth women's lacrosse title. I had no idea that Northwestern actually has a pretty good record of winning titles in their past. They haven't won them recently,
Hmm.
but they won this game 14-11. They were the number two seed. They proved that they should be there. It was really an impressive game. Any other take
Yep.
on Northwestern lacrosse?
It was a great matchup of two of some of the best players in the country. Northwestern has a freshman girl that went crazy, and it was just a really good game.
Yeah. One thing I'll mention here is that ACC has been dominating lacrosse, both men's and women's, for many, many years, including several decades. And it does seem like the Big Ten's coming up a little bit in lacrosse.
Hmm.
So that is something just to point out. Obviously, on the men's side, you have the Ivy League's always been good, but I do find it interesting that Northwestern's a Big Ten team. They're having this success. So
Yeah.
kind
And
of good for lacrosse.
Northwestern beat Johns Hopkins and UNC, so they deserve that trophy.
They really did.
They do.
Kind of good for lacrosse when you have a spread out of different conferences.
Hmm.
It really is. So last one to talk about here, you have the 11-0 run going into halftime for Princeton, and then they eventually win the title. Congratulations to Princeton. Big win today. Do you think this is
They're
going to
awesome.
sustain? I mean, do you think the Ivy League's going to keep winning these
Yeah.
titles? Or I know ACC had three of the four teams in the Final Four.
Yeah, I think Princeton and Cornell are going to be good, for a number of years ahead. I think that it's not hard for the Ivy League to get these guys because a lot of them are prep school kids and they just excel in lacrosse. And honestly, not everyone has a lacrosse team. It's not
Mm-hmm.
a sport that you can go anywhere you want. And I think that NIL is sort of teasing around a little with lacrosse,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not huge. I think remember when our cousin played at Virginia,
Yeah.
and we had our star had a big deal with Nike. They have a lot of people that have deals with direct companies, but not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily a lot of money pouring in from the school. So NIL is less relevant in that case, and it's a lot
It
more
is.
about, what endorsement deals are there, uh,
Exactly.
and
You
that
know,
might not have a lot to do with the school.
they said in the halftime interviews today that it's not that Ivy Leagues don't have any NIL money; they do have some, but they can't compete with the big conferences, obviously. But in a sport like
Right,
lacrosse, it doesn't matter as much because they have this great education they can offer you.
right.
So,
And it's all prep school kids where, you know, all their classmates are going to really good colleges, so they tend to look more open-mindedly. If you're a really good football player, you're not looking at Princeton. It's not one
it's
of your
true.
good options, you
Well, I
know?
congratulate them. I mean, they just
Yeah,
were
they
great,
did
great all
amazing.
season. I will tell you, Robbie, there was a little bit of pang of sadness when I kept seeing the UVA logo on the field
Yeah,
because
me too.
this was being hosted in Charlottesville, and
Me too.
obviously wish that the Cavaliers had been there. But
I
again,
was
congratulations.
I was happy for Princeton. They did an amazing job. They had a great season. Their goalie was the best in the country. They had a very solid defense. Coach made some nice adjustments. Offensively, they were very potent. They
Yep,
had quite an
100%.
attack. They could hit you from anywhere. So I was
Hmm.
very impressed with Princeton. That's why I picked them to win it. And I feel like they did not disappoint. They were every bit as good as I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, they were fantastic. All right, Robbie, before we start the mailbag segment, are there any other sports stories you wanted to talk about this week?
Yeah, there were a couple of interesting little twists on some things that we didn't get to talk about. One thing was that did you know that Kurt Signetti drove the pace car at the Indy 500?
I did know that. Yep,
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
that was great.
Good to see him. Yep. And the winner, Felix Rosenquist, said it was the gnarliest lap ever. that last lap. So that's kind of fun. Very
That's
cool
very,
race. Another thing,
you know what's funny is he's so competitive. He probably
yeah,
part of him in his mind was like, you know what, I could do this.
yeah, I
He's
know.
just so
Yeah.
competitive.
How do you get good at this? Because I need to study it.
Yeah.
Um, Men's baseball ACC championship, Georgia Tech beat
Yeah.
UNC.
Carolina. Yep.
Congratulations for
Mhm.
them. Very, very cool.
And let me
Drew,
pause you. Let me just pause you there because we have an episode, guys, coming later this week. Please check it out, where we're going to talk about the NCAA 64 bracket for men's college baseball. So that'll be fun. And we're
yeah.
also going to show you the finalists in the MLB expansion. They've got it down to 9 cities, and they're going to choose 2 out of those 9. And so we're going to preview all 9 cities and the pros and cons of each city that Rob and I think. So we're going to do that later this
Mhm.
week.
Yep. A lot of good stuff going on there. Um, let's see. We had the Georgia Tech, Drew Burris, the all-time run leader for Georgia Tech,
Mm-hmm.
and he was awesome. He was one of the main reasons why they won that. So there's a couple other pieces of news. World Cup, Congo needs to isolate because of Ebola virus, and I think they need to be in isolation for 21 days. So I wonder if that's
Mm-hmm.
going to affect their
I
training.
did see
I
that.
don't know.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
wild. The other thing is the U.S. had some interesting. They had a big scandal of a leak of their starting lineup came out, and apparently their coach is very upset about it.
Yeah, it's
But
actually
there
supposed
was
to be announced tomorrow, and it was leaked a couple
tomorrow,
of days
yep.
ago.
So
Yeah.
keep your eyes out for the
Mm-hmm.
official
Mm-hmm.
listing of that, and that's going to dictate a lot about what kind of World Cup we're going to have. It looks to me
Mm-hmm.
like we're very light on attackers and midfielders, and we're very heavy on defenders and decent in goalies. So to me, I'd like to have a little bit more attack so that we have a fighting chance
Mm-hmm.
than just keeping it low scoring. But we'll see. We'll see what the final roster is there. Um, and that. Oh, and one other interesting story was in women's softball. Did you see the Florida Texas Tech game?
I didn't watch the game, but you told me about it, and you told me
Yeah, it
what
was
happened.
interesting.
But yeah,
It
tell
was
us
really
what happened.
interesting. Jason Williams, the former NBA point guard, they called him White Chocolate, Sacramento Kings, and some other teams. He played. He went to high school with Randy Moss. Anyway, Jason Williams' daughter went to Florida for 2 years and transferred to Texas Tech. So there was some bad blood there, and it showed out in that game. That was kind of a wild game.
Mm-hmm.
She hit a home run and did a big bat flip. They hit her 5 times. They hit her 5 times with pitches, and there was a lot of bad blood. There was people in the stands all jawing at each other.
Mm-hmm.
The coach for Florida got thrown out of the game. Jason Williams got thrown out. They let him
Wow.
back in. It was just a very tense game, extremely hard fought, and very close actually until the final score was not close, but it was pretty close until late
So
in the
really
game.
competitive game till late, and it really
Really
got you.
competitive game, and then Texas Tech started hitting home runs
Yeah, that's right.
again, and so it was 16-7. So that clearly was not close at the end, but it was pretty interesting to see Jason Williams come onto the field and give a speech at the end. It was interesting. But one final thing was the big scandal was Florida refused to come out and shake Texas Tech's
Oh wow.
hands at the end. So that was kind of a bad sportsmanship, but they felt justified because there was so much bad blood. So anyway, there was a
Yeah,
lot of things there that probably could have been handled differently. But it
amazing.
was interesting to see the the impact of rivalry players that is formed by NIL.
I always want to see those
That's
guys
interesting.
have good sportsmanship. So yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah. No, I
So
don't either.
I love the
You can
competitiveness.
fight as hard as you can during the game, but as soon as it's
Yeah,
over, it's time to go congratulate your opponent, no matter how it
100%.
went.
100%.
And like I tell the boys constantly, when you're winning, keep your head down. When you're losing, when you lose, keep your head up. And
Yep.
so that keeps you humble, but also it keeps you strong when it's time to have uh, sportsmanship. So anyway,
You're
that's
right.
it for the unbelievable weekend of sports.
That's great. All right. Well, let's go to this week's questions for the fans. We want you guys to drop us comments because we read everything and we will read it on the air every time we get it from you guys. So please drop us questions and also answer these three questions. Here we go, Robbie. Who will
Let's
win the
go.
Spurs Thunder series? Drop us a comment on that one. Robbie, you say Thunder, I say Spurs. Is that correct?
Thunder. Yep.
All right. Both of us think in 7. So, guys, drop us a comment. We want your fan answers on that one. Who's going to win that series? Second question is, do we need a flopping rule in the NBA similar to the one in World Soccer? And, in World Soccer 2 years ago, they put in a new rule that you get a yellow card if the referee thinks you're flopping. And they're trying to get rid of it. And, of course, we've had a lot of accusations of flopping in this particular playoffs with SGA and with Harden and with other guys who seem to really be kind of abusing the rules. Embiid. So, Robbie, thoughts about that? Do we need a new flopping rule in the NBA? Because it's kind of getting ridiculous.
I think we should take a deep breath and give this some thought. How pervasive is it? I'd like to take a look at what we think. How big is the problem? Do I think we've discovered a decent amount of it with SGA getting highlighted? Yeah, but I think LeBron is the poster child of flopping in my world. So
LeBron,
I'd
Embiid,
like
all
to
these
know
guys.
how deep and far does it go in the discussions with the refs. I think there should be a thoughtful discussion about it and a thoughtful solution.
I think we need a rule.
Possibly some new rules, but not just. I don't want to make it knee jerk. I think that's really dumb.
You should be able to call a technical foul on a guy if he flops and isn't even touched, which happened multiple times with SGA in the game the other night. There's got to be something you can do against that where he's not even touched and he flops. So that's just my opinion. I think that it's gotten way out of hand. It's getting to the point where it's actually laughable now. And you've got to have some fairness in the way that it's called. So, guys, drop us a comment. Do we need a new flopping rule in the NBA? Let us know. Third question of the week is, are Avalanche done? And are the Hurricanes going through to the finals? 2-part question, Robbie.
I think yes, the Avalanche are done because they should have come away with a win last night if they had a fighting chance. And what about the Hurricanes? What's the exact question?
Are the Hurricanes going to get through to the finals?
Going to go through? I think so. Yes.
Yeah, I think that Avalanche are done. I do think they're going to get game 4, but I think they are done. They're going to lose, and I think the Hurricanes will get through. Yes. So I agree with you. Drop us a comment, guys. We will read them on the air. And I'll hand it to Robbie.
All right. I am going to take us to the episode we just posted last night about the quick reaction. So great job with the explanation. John Nelson, 2001.
Oh, thanks, Nelson. We appreciate that. Thanks for watching and dropping us the comment. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And straight to the point as always, Alexander Parker.
Oh, thanks, Alexander. Yeah, we try to be to the point. We don't want to waste you guys' time. We want to get right to it. You can see this particular episode tonight. We had so many stories. We're doing our best to pack them all in, but we do try to get right to the point. Thanks.
Yeah. Pure gold content from Raymond Samuel Rivera.
Oh, wow. It's quite a compliment. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. And awesome tutorial, Douglas Scott Morris.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, we do our best to do our research. We bring it to you guys, and we're glad that you like it. Keep watching and subscribing.
And that's it. A lot of short comments this week, a lot more of the same of those. We appreciate those. And but that's kind of what we had this week. So figured we'd stop.
So Robbie, heading into this week, man, we got a couple series that are finishing up. We've got soccer's getting closer and closer. Our big soccer episode's coming up on June 4th. Any other thoughts about what you're excited about?
Let's say World Cup coming on the horizon is very exciting. I love the World Cup. I'm very excited about that. Hearing a lot of stories about England.
Mhm.
Gonna, you know,
And
come
it's
on.
interesting because they're not in the top five right now, but I wouldn't count
Yeah,
them out. They've got a
I
good
know.
club.
Come on, come on. So I'm very excited about, I'm always hopeful with the U.S. team. I always hear how fast we are and young and all that, and we're up and coming, and it's always the same every 4 years. We're always young and up and coming. It's like,
For us, I don't think
some-
it's realistic for us really to ever think we can win the World Cup. That's just not going to happen, in my opinion. Probably not in our lifetime. But
yeah,
what I do think is I want to see improvement, and I want to see us get out of the group stage. To me, that
yeah, I
is
agree.
success for
If
us.
we can consistently get out of the group stage, I'm pretty happy
Hmm.
because of the state of soccer. I think there's a lot more people watching international soccer now than there
Hmm.
were before. I remember you and I used to watch Soccer Made in Germany, and everyone thought we were crazy,
Hmm.
because this was back in the late '80s
Hmm.
and mid '80s, late '80s, and we were watching the Bundesliga, and nobody had ever heard of any of that,
Hmm.
and it was on TV. Somehow we were able to watch it,
Although,
but Americans weren't watching back then.
although viewership of the MLS is up the last couple of years,
Hmm.
viewership of Olympic soccer is up. It's not
Yeah,
that viewership and interest is down in the U.S. That's not true. I think we're not
no,
developing the premier players like we used to, and we've
yeah,
got
our
to.
development system is
Yeah,
broken.
that's
I've
right.
heard Landon Donovan talk about that a lot, how disgusting it
Hmm.
is where um, the youth soccer, this is a whole episode in and of itself, but
Right.
the youth soccer development system is really just about making money. It's not
Yep.
about developing players. The rest of the world, if you're a good soccer player, they pay for everything for you.
Hmm.
They want you to become the next striker for the US national team or whatever, or
Hmm.
Portuguese or whatever national team. In America, they see it as a business opportunity to get the richest kids possible to have their parents pay a ton of money for development. And it may not be the kid
What's
that really has this special knack and special ability. So
What's interesting is my kids were in that system, and it was incredibly expensive. We spent a lot of money on their development, and the
yeah,
thought was is that if you professionalized it and made it really expensive, and you had parents commit a lot of resources to it, that the development would get better. And I think it
and they'd be
hasn't.
serious about it, and it
I think
hasn't.
it's the
Yeah.
opposite. Development's gotten worse,
Yeah.
and it's not as widespread. You need more players playing, and therefore you need more either free type of teams or free leagues or very low cost leagues to really get
Well, I
all the
think
players you need.
I think if it's all about money, you're gonna miss out on a huge chunk of
Yeah,
super high performing athlete potential in
100%.
the kids that are kind of not very well off, but that work really hard and that
Mhm.
are not going to get distracted by a lot of video games and electronics. They're going to go out and play, and they're going to get really good. And I don't know what their background is always going to be. It's always going to be
Mhm.
varied, but a lot of the background of the poorer kids might be your gold, players, your best
Mhm.
players. And if it's all about money and making money for the companies that are developing, then you're going to miss out on all those kids, unless
Mhm.
there's some kind of scholarship help on some level. So, yeah, the U.S.
Well,
system needs a lot of work.
we need to
Um,
rethink the whole system, and I hope we will, and I think we will. Actually, this after this World Cup, I think we will. I think we're going to improve
you know what it really
for the
feels like?
next World Cup.
It feels like we outsource the development of our best players to the rest of the world.
Hmm.
We send them to Dortmund and to
Hmm.
Chelsea. You know what I mean? This is how we get our starters.
Of course,
They're
that's
not
how everyone feels overseas. If you're trying to develop European basketball players, so I'll go to the NBA.
sure.
So it's the same
No,
kind of thing.
it could go the other way in other sports. I'm only talking about soccer.
Hmm.
In soccer, there's like two or three guys from the MLS in this system. That's sad. It should be 90%
Hmm.
MLS
Yeah,
if our
that's right.
system was working properly.
Well, I'm
And
super
most of
excited.
MLS, there's a ton of international players in there. So
I'm
anyway,
super excited about the World Cup. I can't wait.
me
We're going to
too.
have a great preview show for you guys. Look for that. Tonight, of course, we got Carolina Hurricanes, Canadiens game three. Really excited about that one, 8 o'clock tonight. And then we have Knicks, Cavaliers also at 8. That series, in my opinion, will probably come to an end tonight. But Hurricanes game should be great. And I'm really excited about what's coming this next week or so.
I think it's very hard to sweep another team. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's happened in both the main
Well,
sports recently, but I think it's very difficult to do. I think it's a higher likelihood of a team with pride stealing a game
well, I don't think
than,
I've
than
seen
it's,
a loss that was more devastating than that game one loss because Cleveland had a 22-point lead with 6.5 minutes left. That just should
yeah.
never happen. There should
Yeah,
never be a
I think it's
close
hung around their
deficit.
neck the entire time. And unfortunately, I feel like last night's game that happened to the Avalanche.
Mhm. Yep,
They should have had that game, and everyone knows it. And because they let it slip away, you just don't come back from that kind of loss.
that's right.
They're up three
Guys,
nothing in the first period.
drop us a comment. We really like hearing from you guys, and like this video, subscribe to the channel, bring some friends to the channel. We really appreciate it. We are striving really hard to get to 100,000 subscribers. That's where we want to be. We can only get there with you guys' help. So thank you so much for coming along the ride with us. And Robbie, I can't wait for what's coming, man.
So much good stuff. It was a wild weekend, a little precursor to the rest of the way, with World Cup and then baseball flaring up and all kinds of good sports. Football, there's always news. We're gonna hopefully have an episode coming up pretty soon on the state of the NIL and
Mhm.
all the updates of players who are not on
We
rosters and
got
so much
MLB
stuff to.
MLB expansion, and we got the College World Series on its way too. It's a lot of fun.
Yep, yep, a lot of good stuff. So. Hang in there with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for giving us your time and going on the journey with us. We really appreciate it, and we feel like you were in the car with us on the way to work. You know,
All right, we'll see you next time on the Sports Guys. Have a great
see
one.
you. Take care.